good to drive in this land of ours.
Hello, Canadian hockey fans in the United States.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hockey Time Machine. I'm Glenn Dreyfus. When we found out that tonight's show would feature former Capital and Red Wing Mark Lofthouse and former Wing, Ranger, Leaf, and Jet Mark Osborne, we wanted to come up with a catchy title. We considered Permanent Markers. Then we thought maybe we'll go with the Marks Brothers. We briefly considered Marky Marks and even Marcos in polos. But since we didn't know if they'd be wearing polos, we decided, what the hell, let's just bring them on and say hello and welcome and thank Mark Osborne and Mark Lofthouse. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Glenn.
Yeah,
looking forward to it.
Yeah, love the intro. I don't know what Lofty would think about all of that, and if he wanted to be Marky Mark or, I think it all sits well with him. That's the easygoing Lofty that I've always loved.
What is that Lofty that you have up on the wall there?
Yeah, this here is I don't know if you can really get a good picture. I got my shade in there, but you can see the hair, the top of the hair there. Ozzy always thought he was 6'3", but he was actually 6'1", I think, when he played. And I don't know if you know that, but when he got traded in 1983, it was a trade involving him and Rod Duguay. And it was more of a hair trade, I think. I think Detroit got sick and tired of his due. There you go, right? They got tired of his due, and look at the turtleneck. There's a fashion statement right there for you.
Well, thanks for that, Loft, and you're absolutely right. I told the guys beforehand, you're wearing the hat. I'm not sure why you're wearing the hat. I'm wearing a hat because I was hard working in the yard earlier today. I was in the Leaf alumni box last week, and Wolfie Paymont accused me of what kind of shoe polish do I use? And I said, Wolfie, I got to tell you one thing. The last thing I'll ever do is color my hair. So had it not been for this hat, this is all natural. It's, guys are jealous of me. I'm not sure why that is. I know I'm not quite as old as you, Mark. But nonetheless, thanks for the picture. You're never surprised me with some of the things you come up with.
Well, you're 60 now, right? 60?
61, and I know that you share the same birthday as my wife, born on the same day, the same year, April 21st, 1957. So that makes you, do the math. Happy 65th, Lofty. 60 flipping 5.
A couple of really good quality people right there. Okay? 65. I just, believe it or not, Social Security is sending me some, what do you call it, payments now. So that's kind of cool. I never thought I'd get anything from the States after I left, but they're sending me a little, I guess I put enough time in,
Now, are you using that money wisely, or is that going towards some of your gambling junkets that I understand?
Well, part of that would be going to the gambling junkets. Everybody. I'm always a gambler, you know what I mean?
Before we get into the chronological aspect of your careers, who wants to volunteer how you guys met and how you've stayed friends over the years?
Go ahead, Ozzy. You're younger. You have a better memory.
Yeah, I do have a pretty good memory, but here's the first thing that I remember is that I finished my junior career in 1981, the spring of '81, and was drafted by the Red Wings in 1980. And so what the Red Wings ended up doing was sending me down to Adirondack to play in the playoffs. And I recall playing against this fellow by the name of Mark Lofthouse that I, certainly read the stats, knew he was a prolific scorer. He actually had a reputation of dressing very well. I think he'd wear a cowboy hat going to the rink. He had a beautiful, wife at the time. And so that was my first introduction. We beat them in that series, by the way. I know
bad memory.
that was a bad memory. And then, I don't know what happened from, Lofty's point of view, whether he obviously came to the Red Wings the following season, must have been a free agent and signed with us. And so I know we didn't get a chance to play a lot of games that first year together, but, I think instantaneously there was a friendship, there was a bond. I enjoyed his sense of humor. We started playing backgammon, I think, on some plane rides. I had him over for dinner once, and I remember, him being the big guy from the West Coast. We were going to cook some lobsters, and we did so at my place. The only problem with that is that we went on the road trip the next day, and Lofty wasn't smart enough to say, you know what, we really better put them outside in the garbage rather than leave the shells in my house. And so when I came back about a week later, the place was just stunk to high heaven. And so that started the friendship with me and Lofty.
Well, that was by design. That was all by design. That was, that would definitely leave a message and an image, I guess, buddy?
Yeah.
But, I just remember I got traded for I was playing in Hershey the year before, and I got traded to Detroit for Al Jensen, the goaltender. And I won't get too much into my camp and how everything went, but finally got an opportunity to play up in Detroit, and got to meet Ozzy, and we just hit it off right off the bat, and just a quality guy, and I could see that. And it was just nice to have that. He did have me over for dinner. When I was in Washington, nobody had me for dinner, so it was just nice to, be accepted and pulled into the realm right off the bat. So, and Ozzy was a young guy, right? He was, I was probably 26 maybe, or even less than that, 25, 26, and he was about 20 years old. So for him to have the foresight shows his quality of a person, and just leadership qualities he possessed at an early age.
Well, maybe it was the turtleneck and the corduroy jacket that attracted you, Lofty, and you thought, wow, what a fashion statement.
Oh man, and you went out in public like that too. It was crazy.
Well, as we go along, whoever I'm talking to, if the other one wants to chime in, please feel free. But here we go. And please, I heard some nice, positive, friendly comments from each of you about the other. And if you'll please restrict yourself to biting sarcasm, I would appreciate it. Okay. Lofty, in the 3 years with New Westminster of the WCHL, you scored 38, then 68, then 54 goals. And in 1977, you added 10 in the playoffs as your Bruins won the Memorial Cup. Let's take a look.
Creasy in front. Here's a Harko. Gets a weak back into the score. Loftus has paid the Loftus, and they fired it home. Here it comes across from the side. Here we have Lofthouse all by himself. Down behind the goal, pass in front. Regan stops it. Here's a chance for Lofthouse. Oh, he scores! Lofthouse! With Regan caught out of the net. Lofthouse moves the puck around and sends it home, and it's now 4-2. Creasy makes things move. Holmes gets set for the draw. The puck is dropped into the corner. 2 seconds. 1 second. The game is over. And the New Westminster Bruins have won the Memorial Cup.
Wow. I know Ozzy wants to hear all about this. But that's a great video. Thanks for showing all that. It was fantastic. That's a long time ago. I was surprised there was some color in it also. But you know what I enjoyed the most about that was beating that East Coast team, you know, in the Ontario League. It was always actually they beat us in the first game, I think, and playing Ottawa 67s in the Memorial Cup, and what a team they had. I mean, looking back, I thought our team was stacked, but I mean, they had Doug Wilson and Riggins and Bobby Smith and Steve Payne and you know, some future, you know, just, you know, high level NHLers on that team. And we were very lucky to Hospodar, I think, was on that team. We were very lucky to win that game. We were up 5-2 going into the third. They came back and tied us, and Brad Maxwell scored the winner late in the game. So but yeah, it was a lot of fun back then. You know, it was played right in Vancouver too, which was great, kind of hometown.
No, that was awesome, Glenn, to watch. I mean, I'd never seen any of that footage. You know, with Lofty, it's certainly not surprising. You mentioned his numbers. You know, he did that in junior. He did that in the American League. I mean, you know, my current position in Lofty would say, like, is it really a job doing being a pro scout? But that's what I do now with the LA Kings. And Lofty had the soft hands, touch around the net. I mean, that's a God-given talent and skill. You know, and we would always say to guys, like, you can work on things, but if you don't have the ability to score, I'm not sure that you're going to score. You just have to be able to have that innate ability. And, you know, Lofty had those soft hands around the net.
Lofty, did you have any idea as a teenager how big winning the Memorial Cup would be for the people in BC?
You know, I honestly didn't. You know, we the 2 years previously, the Memorial Cup, we went to the Memorial Cup the whole 3 years I was there. We played in the final game. We lost to the Toronto Marlies the first year out east in Kitchener, I believe, where the Rangers played. And we lost that final game. And they had, you know, Bruce Boudreau and John Anderson on that team, a few other, Mike Kitchen. They beat us. And then the next year we lost to Hamilton Fin Cups. And they had Dale McCourt, you know, huge Detroit Red Wing back in the day, and Willie Huber and a few, you know, tremendous players back then too. So, but it was quite a great feeling to finally win it at home, you know, in front of our own crowd. I didn't think, you know what, I was so caught up in junior, I never really watched much NHL. I just didn't pay attention to it much. As a matter of fact, when I got drafted to Washington, I thought, oh, great, my parents can come down and watch me play every game if they wanted to. Little did I know it was not like Seattle, Washington, Washington, D.C. So that was a little, you know, I mean, that's how I didn't do well in school, but I graduated. You know?
Now, Lofty, just I know Glenn's the moderator and asking you the questions, but I found it interesting that, yeah, 3 Memorial Cups. You mentioned the Marlies, and then the Fin Cups. I think it was my old junior coach, Bert Templeton, who coached the Fin Cups. But it seemed like those 2 Memorial Cups that you lost were on the road, and then you won at home in Vancouver. So is it possible to even consider the big bad Bruins of New Westminster being homers?
Well, I guess it could be, couldn't it? Yeah, I'll tell you what, we had the game against Hamilton. It was billed as the big tough Bruins from the west against the big tough Finn Cups from the east. And what I remember mostly about it was we wanted to, and I wasn't the tough guy by any means. I was a goal scorer, but we had Barry Beck and Brad Maxwell and guys like Harold Philippop, and we just had such a huge dynamic team and physical. It was just amazing. I would never want to play against my team. It was like the Broad Street Bullies of junior, where we went and we played Hamilton, and they were big and tough and mean, and I, for some reason we decided that was more important to us than winning the game, I think. And the coach for Hamilton, I think it was Bert Templeton, told his guys to just play hockey. And we got aggressive, and I think we had 3 major penalties in the first 15 minutes, and we're down 3-0 before the game even got started. So it was a great experience. But yeah, it was really nice to finally win it. And I think they went on, the Bruins again showed how much impact I had. They went on the next year and won it again without me. So yeah, Ernie McLean was our coach, Punch McLean, and legendary out in these areas, and he's 90 years old now, and he still looks the same as he did 50 years ago. He was a heck of a coach.
Ozzie, your amateur path was less certain. At 14, you're cut by the Bantam Marlies, which, by the way, was no disgrace. Larry Murphy and Paul Coffey were cut from the same tryout. You're also not drafted at age 16, but you catch on with the Niagara Falls Flyers. And here's what one of your teammates said, Steve Ludzik, about you in a transformation. Quote, "My little buddy sprouted 6 inches, and at 6'3" was armed with a body like a superhero sculpted from Marvel Comics." So what happened? Did you eat some magic beans, or what happened?
I don't know. Ludsey seems like he's really fabricating stories. He can talk with the best of them. But yeah, you know what? My path certainly to the game was a little bit different. And you did mention getting cut as a Bantam. I mean, I was cut because, simply the Marlies wanted to get better, and the Young Nats in Toronto were the team to beat. And it was almost like a player transfer. And so they loaded up the Marlies. I ended up going to the Young Nats. But, playing in the back then was the MTHL, so the Metropolitan Toronto Hockey League. I mean, it arguably is one of the, the best breeding grounds for minor hockey to produce, NHL players. A lot of great players have come out of this minor hockey system here in Toronto. No different than the great players that came out of Vancouver. I mean, every major city has its own star players. But I was bypassed in the OHL draft. All my peers were drafted, and certainly, I don't know if I even had the expectations to get drafted. I really didn't think I was as good as the rest of the guys. And then obviously when you get drafted, that pretty well sums it up. You're not good enough. But as Mark Lofty had just mentioned, Bert Templeton with the Finn Cups, he ended up becoming the coach that first year of Niagara Falls, when all of these guys like Larmer and Ludzik, Darrell Evans, they were all drafted to Niagara Falls, and I got the chance to become one of the extras, and I got a letter in the mail to be an invite. And so I figured, why not? I'll use the experience. I'll go to camp. Bert, I know, was big on physical fitness. I got a letter in the mail. He gave us instructions what to do off the ice, and I thought, what the heck? I might as well follow this program. I got nothing to lose. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get cut, and I'll go home and play Junior B, and I'll be with my buddies and go to school and probably try to get an education. Hockey wasn't part of the equation for me, but lo and behold, I think Bert was more impressed with my off-ice stuff. I could skip pretty good. I did excel at some of the things that he had us do, and I know that did catch his eye. And then, during exhibition and training camp, I tried to be an honest player up and down my wing. But yeah, as Steve Ludzik mentioned, I did grow that summer. I mean, Lofty says I was 6'3" because of the hair, but I really did. I must have grown about 5 inches, and I went to camp literally at 6'2" and 169. Okay, so I was a scrawny kid, and I swear I could barely take a snapshot. That's how weak I thought my wrists were. But anyways, much to my surprise, they said you've made the team, and we'd like you to stay. And I was a little bit hesitant, I got to tell you, because I wasn't planning on this. And
you almost declined, right?
No, I know I did. I said I'm not sure I want to do this. I wasn't sure about it. It was just quite a shock. And then you started thinking about, I got to move away from home. I'm not sure how my parents are going to feel about it. I don't know if my mom is ready for this. And I guess I was just a little bit shy at the time. But obviously I talked with my dad and say, of course I'm going to stay. I made this decision to stay. And, that team of us Niagara Falls Flyers, I mean, they were the worst team in the OHL the previous year. And with about 10 of us rookies, we went right to the OHL finals and lost to the Peterborough Petes in 7 games. So I was that close to doing what Mark did and even having a chance to go to the Memorial Cup. But, obviously the rest is history. My junior career got started and lo and behold, I was obviously good enough to get drafted.
You get drafted by the Red Wings, and Ted Lindsay, no less, says you remind him of Bob Gainey, no pressure. You deliver, though, with 26 goals in your rookie season. What was that rookie season like?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was certainly not expected to begin with. I mean, if Ted said that, I mean, my dad mentioned that to me as well. It's kind of funny, you get this mindset and you start believing. And Dad said, listen, I know you well enough that you don't have a lot of skill. Bob Gainey had. Maybe he revolutionized the two-way player, I guess. Defense became something as a winger. Maybe that was a little bit more, I don't know. It said something, that you could have trusted players. And so, yeah, I mean, I went into junior, feeling I wanted to be responsible away from the puck. I knew that there was a little bit of skill in my game and that I could shoot the puck. I certainly was, more surprised than anybody else that I ended up leading that team and scoring that year. You got to almost wonder, like, where did everybody else go on that team? But it was a period of transition for the Red Wings. I know after that first year, Mike Ilitch bought the team and things started to change. But not only was it a dream come true to become an NHL player. I remember my first exhibition game playing against, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Daryl Sittler was on the ice, and I was a kid watching Daryl, pretending to be one of those guys. Playing ball hockey, and my knees were literally shaking, facing off against Daryl Sittler. But as Lofty would attest, you kind of settle in, you find your way, and things just couldn't go any better that year. Miracles do happen, because who would have thought an undrafted player in a junior, and then a guy as a 20-year-old on a team probably that needed a little bit of youthfulness. A guy like me ends up leading the team in scoring.
Also, as a youngster in Detroit during your rookie year, you did quite well in a skills competition. Let's take a look.
Mark Osborne, the Red Wing rookie, left winger, only 20 years of age. Tall, lanky forward. Well, he's got the 2 easy ones down. Now the top 2 left. Oh, good shot on that one. Perfect. All right, he got all 4 of them. That's some fine shooting by Osborne. Mark Osborne scores. We haven't said that too many times, Ricky. Goal post on that one. That Osborne Second last shot, and right on the ice. Look at that. That's the place to put him.
I did a lot better on shooting on the targets this time, and I think I scored 1 goal on each of them, and just shooting a 5 puck, so they're both good.
Mark, again, congratulations. We'll see you in the next round.
Thanks very much.
Our winner, Mark Osborne.
Like, you look at that, Jill. I think that was Gilles Gilbert in the net, and I think by the end of his career, Lofty, like, Gilly didn't want to go down at all. He wanted to stand up on the ice and hope the puck didn't hit him. So that's the only reason why I scored a bunch of goals on him in that.
It's crazy. Well, obviously, as you can see in those pictures there, Ozzy was talking about how bad his wrists were, and he didn't have much of a wrist shot. But you can attest that he was lying, because he was ripping those things top shelf like nothing. But just where Mom keeps the peanut butter, right top shelf there, Mark Osborne. But hey, outside of that, it's just like you said, like you're watching Gilles Gilbert. I think he was in net. Just the goalies were way different then. It's all stand up, and now now it's. I mean, if you got to be 12 inches over the pads, inside post, there's nowhere to shoot on these goalies. So it was kind of funny to see that old clip, and he didn't even move on the one shot. It was great. But yeah, what a great start to a career for Mark, and I was just lucky enough to get on a line with him. We played on a line together, and there was 3 of us Marks on the same line. Mark Curtin was the third guy, and the 3 Marks. So Glenn, you can come up with a saying for that probably. But,
the Marksmen.
Yeah, exactly. It was it's quite interesting, because Mark's a realtor out east, and he just sent me a referral not too long ago, and I know he's just doing fantastically well out there. I know that he's dealing with his health, and his attitude is just extremely great. Just incredible human being, and dealing with ALS, and I just wish him well, and just it's so sad to see, because it's not stopping him a bit. I think he's one of the top realtors out in his marketplace and that. So, but it was kind of interesting, the 3 of us playing together, and having that time spent with these guys.
As an aside, Mark is a friend of this show, and we've had him on, and he has done tremendous in raising awareness about ALS and raising money. And while his arms and legs aren't working like he'd like them to, his brain is still sharp, and just a real inspiration.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Just attitude is tremendous, and I haven't seen him since I played almost. It's been a long time. Time flies. It's been I don't know how many years now, 40 years or whatever. Yeah, less than 35 years. So.
Yeah, I've had the good fortune, both Glenn and Mark, to see Kurtz, quite a bit, be it all on Zoom. I know that he was at the Leaf Alumni Golf Tournament a while back, maybe about a month ago. He was, given an award by the alumni for that great work that he does with ALS. But talk about a dreaded disease, but his attitude, his faith, and just his outlook on life is just amazing and inspirational to all of us. It's a dreaded disease. We all know Boreal Salming is now facing the same battle. His has progressed quite extensively. Kurtz is hanging in there, although, he's in a wheelchair now, but you wouldn't know it by the way he just conducts himself. His attitude and outlook is, like I said, inspirational.
I know both you and he, your kind words, he will hear them and appreciate them. So thank you for that. Yeah. Lofty, you mentioned 40 years. Well, you're with the Capitals, who drafted you. Opening night of the 78-79 season, you're in LA. And the weird part about this game is, up until opening night, you had never met your coach. What do you remember about that?
Geez, I don't know. I
It
don't
was Dan
recall.
Belisle. He
Yeah.
had been hired 48 hours earlier when
Okay.
your coach, your first Capital season, Tom McVie, had been fired right at the end of training camp. And it was kind of an unprecedented situation that the players had never met their coach. And here they are going to play on opening night, and the coach doesn't know any of you.
All right. Yeah. No, I vaguely remember that, but yeah, just having him come in and it was kind of a shocker. I mean, Tommy McBee was he was quite the personality. You know, as the biggest personality you're ever going to get. He's still involved in the game. It's hard to believe, but he had that deep voice, and he always had a presence around him. And I remember when he got fired more than anything, and it was just. It was sad, you know, sad to see, you know, because he was devastated by it. I remember that. And Danny coming in and taking the reins. I don't recall the game much because of I guess the shock of what happened over that quick period of time.
Here's a memory I'll bet you remember. The most eventful night of your NHL career, and maybe the craziest. It came just a few miles from your hometown. So if you can, and I've got notes here if you get any wobbly on the facts, but what are your memories of December 9th, 1978 against the Canucks?
Yeah, that was, that was such a fun night, for me anyway. Family, friends, rookie year, first came back in Vancouver. Washington never beat Vancouver up until that point. And I came in not expecting a whole lot, just try to do a decent job and not embarrass myself in front of all my family and friends. And it was interesting because I was online with Guy Chiron, I think at that time. No, Ryan Walters and Paul Mulvey, but I brought up Guy Chiron because I remember taking my glove off on the bench to slide over, and Mark, you kind of could relate to this, but I put my hand down on the bench to slide over, and right at that time, Guy Chiron jumped on the bench with a skate to jump over the bench, and the skate was right on my hand and tore like 12 or 14 stitches into my hand, and they had to leave right away, and they had wrapped it up and went in the dressing room. They stitched me up, and I got out just in time for the second period. It was my bottom hand, so I was just seeing if I could hold my stick, and I could, thank God. And I went out, and we ended up. Glenn Hamill was in net, and I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to score 3 goals that game and get a hat trick. And I always wanted to be on Hockey Night in Canada. It was a Hockey Night in Canada game, and it was kind of a dream come true, and in front of my home family and friends, and getting the star and getting interviewed after with the pale blue jackets with the guys on. And that was, for sure, that was a huge, I thought that was going to be the lift off my career, but unfortunately it was one of the highlights, but it was a lot of fun, that's for sure.
You had your mom and dad in the stands, 40 friends, and you said afterward, you told teammates they could step on your left hand too.
Yeah, I do anything to Ozzy relate to that. If you can make a difference in a game, you do what you can, and I think that's how we got to where we got to, was by sacrificing and playing hurt and going back out there and competing. And we love to compete. And I probably, nobody loves scoring goals more than me. I play with I know Ozzy doesn't want to hear about the Canuck alumni because I've never played with the Canucks, but I got asked to start when I retired at 32. They asked me to come out. I said, sure, I'll come out. And I've been with them ever since. And it's kind of like my we skate every Wednesday night. It's kind of like my church, but, going to that and being with the guys and just enjoying that lifestyle. But Cliff Ronning is a prolific scorer with the alumni, but I always keep telling them I'm still the leading scorer on the alumni there. So, because I still love putting it in the net.
Now, you score the hat trick in that game. I mean, after gushing blood, you almost don't make it back on the ice. And then you score a hat trick. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was, it was a moment I'll never forget. And coming out, and I was the last guy out of the dressing room, and just kind of taking it all in. I came out, and not a person left, and everybody said the old Coliseum, and there must have been 100 people down there waiting for me to come out, and so it was. That was a big personal highlight for me.
And this
but
was
nothing,
also,
and Mark will tell you, nothing better than winning a championship with 19 other guys. That's probably the biggest highlights I ever had was that.
this was also your first game for your dad seeing you as a pro because he had had a heart attack, right?
That's correct. Yeah. And I didn't know he had a heart attack, and he made my two sisters swear that they wouldn't contact me to let him know because he was in the hospital and that. And I didn't even know at that time that he had a heart attack. I didn't know until after the end of the year because he did not want me to worry about him and the family and stuff like that. I ended up losing. He ended up coming through that, and I lost him 17 years later to a heart attack. But he was a huge inspiration, for me growing up as a kid, and he was just always there for me.
Yeah. Wow. Loft, that's what an awesome story. I had, no idea, but that's what makes this game so much fun, even for us years later, amongst our peers and sitting around. I think that's probably the biggest thing that we miss about the game, playing the game. It's inside the dressing room and just, the alumni, regardless of what team you played for, it's a special bond, and it certainly brings fond memories. And but that story right there with what you just described, that was really cool.
Thanks, Mark.
And Lofty, your next crazy coaching change with the Capitals, Gary Green takes over. He's only 4 years older than you are. What do you remember about that?
Yeah, that was. I do remember him coming in, and he was unique. He was obviously very young, and he had his own style. I think it was kind of a changing of the guard of coaching. When I played, it was very tough hockey. It was very Broad Street bullies, and I could go on and tell you stories about some of the situations I ran into as a young guy coming up and playing, and the intimidation factor. So I had coaches like Tom McBee and Nick Polano, and Ozzy knows about Nick and that style of coaching. And then, Gary came in with a totally different philosophy. There was a lot more X's and O's and learning the game. And he had a terrific career, and he got respect fairly quickly because of his knowledge, not so much for his intimidation mindset, so he did very well.
Lofty, one other topic I want to touch on with you. This is video of you back with New Westminster. The Bruins played an exhibition against a Russian select team, and years later with the Capitals, you played an exhibition against Moscow Dynamo. By the way, you scored in both of those games against the Russian teams. Your goal's coming up, you're number 8. But what do you recall about playing those two games against Russian teams?
Well, Russia, Canada, you're not playing, you're playing almost for your country. We're wearing Bruin jerseys there, but we're playing the Russians, so we're representing Canada. So it was a tremendous experience. I never forgot that. It was in the Coliseum, that game there, and I think the building was packed, and playing against the skill level of these guys was incredible. I think this is the goal I get. I never scored a lot of slap shots, but that one there I got lucky on, and signature left fist pump was about it. But it was just such a thrill to play against the Russians, to do well, and playing those games, those exhibition games, and that.
You also did a kind of Mike Foligno-esque jump when you scored, at least from the goals I've seen.
Yeah, you know what? Nobody likes scoring more than I do. I still do it with the alumni. So.
No, Lofty, I do know someone that likes scoring more goals than you in alumni hockey, and his name is Rick Five.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. And I've played alumni hockey with Rick, and I haven't done it for a number of years, but if you were to give Squid, and that's his nickname, the puck at center ice and pass it to him, you might as well go for a line change because you're not getting it back.
Yeah, we got one on our group. Cliff Ronning's the guy. He's the guy that does that. Nobody likes scoring goals more than Cliff Ronning. But yeah, those are. But Ozzy and I too, when we grew up, playing together, he lived out west that one year, eh, Ozzy, and we hung out and we worked out and trained together, and he was just a powerhouse, right? I take him to the gym just so he could spot me because I try to keep up with him on the bench, and because he's a little younger than me, and I'm like, well, these young kids coming up, and they're just, they just bale hay all summer or something because he was just built like a brick. And but I remember working out and running and training together, and we just had a lot of laughs, a lot of good times, and it was always lighthearted, and we love ribbing each other, but we love each other. So
well, you know what, the reason why I had to work out, Lofty, because skill guys didn't need to do that. The rest of us needed to try to find ourselves. And I remember another funny story, speaking of working out, but when I was playing with the Maple Leafs, John Brophy, I mean, we know Brof was the interesting type of coach, and they had drafted a player by the name of Vincent Damphus in the first round, and Brof liked his tough guys, Loft, as you know. I mean, he was an East Coast hockey league coach sensation. I think he's probably got the most wins in pro hockey as a coach because of the East Coast Hockey League. But he was so frustrated with Vincent Damphus being this scrawny kid that needed to put some weight and get some strength. And, he'd lambaste him in between periods. And he says, "Damphus, introduce yourself to the weight room." So, when you mentioned the summer that we spent, I still remember, fond times of, working out, going to the gym, playing golf, those beautiful courses in Vancouver, and the competition with you just ceased to amaze me. From backgammon on the plane, scoring goals on the ice, and now on the golf course, I'm like, I like this guy. He's competitive.
Yeah, Ozzy, people that know I grind pretty good.
Ozzy, that photo that Mark has so lovingly placed on the wall, I believe is you in a Rangers uniform. Yep. Mm-hmm. Summer of '83, Willie Huber, Mike Blaisdell, and you were traded to the Rangers. What kind of shock is it to the system the first time you get traded in the NHL?
Yeah, well, it was a real shock. And Glenn, I'm not going to use any excuses because, as you've already mentioned, my first year had a good year, led the Red Wings in scoring. The team gets sold. Mike Ilitch buys the team. He brings in Jimmy Devellano as the GM. And after that first year, I was named to Team Canada. I went over to play in the World Championships. It was the year of upsets in the first round, and lo and behold, the Flyers lose, the Canadians lose, the Oilers lose. So who comes over to join the team? It's Bobby Clarke, it's Bill Barber, it's Bob Gainey, it's Wayne Gretzky, and rightly so. I get bumped out of a position, but near the end of that, I stayed there anyways. It was an enjoyable experience just to watch these guys and learn from those icons, those Hall of Famers. But I remember leaving Finland, and I got up and felt really lightheaded, and it felt like passing out. And I felt off all summer. That summer after my first year, I'd go see doctors. I got CAT scans. And I went into that second year after a good first year, really not feeling myself. I still ended up playing all 80 games. So I did not miss a game my first 2 years. but I just did not feel myself. And, I think they were disappointed in my progress. I slipped that second season. And then I get a call from Jimmy Devellano. And if you've talked to Jimmy or had him on a show and you know the way Jimmy can talk, I thought he was calling me to tell me about this kid that they drafted. He goes, "Hi, Mark, how are you? We just picked up, and we had the 4th pick this year, Mark, and we think we got a pretty good player. His name is Steve Eiserman. We think he's going to be a pretty good player." And he goes, but then he said, "We've made a deal, and you're involved." so I thought he was just checking up on me and just being nice as a GM. You get a phone call in the summer after the draft, and then it was basically to tell me he had made a trade that involved, those two guys to my left there, Willie Huber and Mike Blaisdell. And you see that little hairdo there, Lofty, to the left there?
Nice.
That's a little bit of the perm that I had there. It was for Ron Duguay, Eddie Johnstone, and Eddie Mio. So it was a 3 for 3. After, as a young player, it was completely shocking. But you then go to a team that's, obviously another original 6. I certainly remember, I'd never been to New York before. That was where I played my first NHL game. It was a vibrant city, an exciting city. The fans there were great. And so it certainly was a great opportunity, to go and not only go to New York, but, Mark talked about how coaching started to transition a little bit when Gary Green was his coach. Well, my coach there when I went to the Rangers was Herb Brooks. I mean, he was the coach with the 1980 U.S. Olympic gold medal winning team. And his practices were awesome. Like, they were flow drills. They weren't the same practice every day. He started to bring in X's and O's and stuff. And you got to remember the Islanders were winning 4 Stanley Cups in a row. But I love my time in New York. It was certainly shocking when you got traded your first time. I know for a number of us, it happened more than once, but nonetheless, going to New York and playing for a fan base that's crazy about their hockey and had never won a Stanley Cup since 1940. I really did enjoy my, almost 5 seasons I played with the Rangers.
Ozzy, because the New York team was getting rid of Duguay, did they require a player with a perm to be traded in return?
Well, Lofty already did mention that. It had something to do with the hair, but nobody could outdo Dukes at any moment, and even till this day. I mean, this guy is still an iconic guy when it comes to style, his hair, all that kind of stuff. When I got to New York and Mark Loft, you would remember the stories of those swinging Rangers from the late 70s. I mean, that was Gresh and Barry Beck and Phil Esposito and John Davidson. They went to the Stanley Cup final, but not only did they do well in 79 in the late 70s, they also did well off the ice. I mean, it was a whole just different way of playing the game, both on and off the ice.
Studio 54.
Yeah, Studio 54 at its heyday. So, I mean, as a young, I would have been just turning 22, 23. And, that was just another layer of not only playing in the NHL, but, playing for the Rangers and seeing the vibrancy of the city, but also what kind of stuff you can maybe get yourself into, being a professional athlete in New York.
So in March of '87, you go from the big city bright lights of New York to Toronto. And just like I don't think there's anything that can prepare a pro athlete for playing in New York. Is there anything, Ozzy, that can prepare a pro athlete for especially a hockey player, for the pressure cooker that is Toronto?
Yeah, I mean, we're at the 32 teams now, but yeah, there's 2 pressure cookers. I mean, all the Canadian cities take their hockey seriously, but no 2 like Montreal or Toronto. And we had gone to the Stanley Cup semifinals the year before in '86. Under Ted Sater was our coach. We lost to Patrick Waugh. He stood on his head, and the Canadians end up winning the Stanley Cup in '86. But you mentioned that trade going to the Leafs in '87. Actually, Phil Esposito was our coach and GM at the time when I was in New York. Like Lofty, I know he lost his dad a number of years later, but in the fall of '86, my dad passed away, and he was only 48. And his death was different than Mark's dad. He ended up taking his life, and of course, anyone that does that, I mean, we lose our dads no matter how you lose them. It's never easy. I went into a long slump, wasn't really feeling good. Hockey became kind of secondary. You were thinking about your mom and your sister, mom being alone. And then Espo just did me a favor. I know this for sure, that he traded me to the Leafs so I can be close to my mom. And then, like a Southern Ontario kid growing up watching Hockey Night in Canada and being a Leaf fan, I mean, what a dream come true to be able to put on the blue and white and play here in Toronto. During some interesting days with Harold Ballard, but then the transition to the early 90s with Cliff Fletcher and Pat Burns and some success in this city. I mean, it's been a long time since they won a Stanley Cup, but the good fortune of playing with 3 original 6 teams has always been special. But here, a hometown boy, there's nothing like it.
We always hear about how hockey and sports is a business, and it's impersonal, and it doesn't take feelings or sentimentality into account. But the part of the story you told about Esposito basically trading you in some respects as a favor to you, it isn't 100% a business. I think that's an important part of the story that you just told.
Yeah, I mean, it's the game is no question it's changed. There's a lot of money involved. These guys make a ton of money. It is a business to some degree, but to us, it'll always be a game. It'll always be, we played for the love of the game. We didn't play for the money. These guys today play for the love of the game, but they're also well paid beyond measure. But yeah, you know what? Like, I think we all recognize that there's more to the game, and when you're a former player like Espo was, or any of the managers that we had or coaches that we had, there's a mutual understanding. There's thoughts that go towards the player and what's happening. I mean, it is wins and losses. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, coaches and managers are under a lot of pressure to get their teams to win. But yeah, Espo, he was noted as Trader Phil. You got to remember that too. So while he did me a favor, he also, I think, had the record for most trades that he made in a general manager's career in a short period of time, bringing back like Marcel Dion and Guy Lafleur to the Rangers, if you remember that. So I still see Phil. I'm still not afraid to mention that, because I went to a roast where Phil was at, and reintroduced him to my mom, and of course, Mom was like, over the moon meeting Phil and just thanking him for that, because that was a special gesture, no doubt.
If I can add to that real quickly, I mean, it just goes to show you, like, Phil Esposito is, the character that he possessed and the type of person he was. And, I can't imagine how difficult it was for Mark going through all that and playing hockey and battling through that. And I'm sure Phil, again, is a real people person and cares. I think he really cares about individuals. And Mark's the quality kind of individual that he's going to want to make sure that he does the right thing. And I really believe he did that also. And I've got to meet Phil a couple times, and I think hockey now, Mark might be able to back me up on this, but you watch hockey now, I mean, they're players. I mean, they're treated like unbelievable. When I got drafted by the Capitals, I was a rookie. I was 19, other side of the country, pretty homesick. My first 3 months, I lived in a hotel in the Ramada Inn, as a 19-year-old, kind of scared to death trying to play and, have a career. And that was tough. Nobody invited me for breakfast or lunch or dinner, no coach, none of the captains or anything like that. Nowadays, players are brought in. If it's a top hockey player, they'll have them with Besser or Pedersen on the Canucks, for instance. So they'll take them under their arm, and then they have all the best training staff and the psychologists and psychiatrists and training coaches and things of that sort. And they want the best for the players, so they want to get the best out of them. So back in those days, it was like you either just come in and you make it, and if you can't, it doesn't work out, then boom, off you go. And also it was an old school game back then. And I remember when I was drafted, I think with me on the team as a 19, 20-year-old, our average age was like 30. I mean, there was a lot of old guys on that team, and they didn't want me there either. They didn't want me on that team. They were a struggling team. I think we won 8 games that year. Now the theory is bring younger guys in. If they're struggling, bring them in. Bring younger guys. They gotta grow as a youthful team. But back then it was like, some of the trades they made, they're usually guys at the end of their career, bringing them in. And anyway, it was just interesting to see how the evolution of hockey has gone over these years.
Speaking of the evolution, am I also right that there isn't the same hazing of young guys that there was maybe back in the early days and even when you guys were coming up?
Oh, 100%. I went through the initiation process. I won't get too much into details, but that didn't help my first year either. It was I won't say it's vicious, but it was in today's world. If it happened, it would be front page news, especially up here in Canada. Maybe not down there in the States, but in Canada it would be big news. But whatever, it's in the past. Things like that. Nowadays anything like that happens, it's front page news.
Yeah, you know what? Initiation for the young player now or rookies is taking the boys out for dinner and making them buy the dinner with their large bonuses that they get. I don't know what your bonus was, Lofty. My bonus, I think I was able to go buy a new pair of skates. So,
we didn't. I was the same. Ozzy. Just I had a 2-way contract, and trust me, I'm in real estate now. I've been doing this since I retired, 30 plus years, and no one's punched me in the face in real estate yet. So it's been great, and I'm making a lot better financial gains in real estate than I ever did in hockey. So, like I said, Ozzy said earlier, we played it for the love of the game, right? So,
what's the initiation for a real estate agent?
Oh, just fear, fear. Yeah, coming out of hockey, I was very blessed to have 3 or 4 people that became mentors for me through my real estate career. People that I looked up to that were there. Always to go to, and that really helped me. And even in hockey, I had a couple of mentors and that helped me with life after hockey. And I think that transition from being a hockey player, into transitioning into a different lifestyle is different, and I always dreaded that moment. But when it came, I was totally 1,000% all in and ready, and I wouldn't change a thing. I feel very blessed to be able to do what I do, and I still go out and get to play hockey and be with the guys. And like Mark said, that's the memories. It's not so much, you're showing some highlights and a few goals, and that's always cool. But it's in the dressing room and just hanging out, maybe having a beer with the guys and telling some stories like we're telling right now. That's the fun.
Yeah.
Ozzy, before we leave the playing days, I read that as a youngster you were a standout in baseball and track and golf and tennis. But who knew that one day you would appear on an episode of Full Contact Fishing?
I like to work it, eh? I like to work it. Like, you might get the rod in, you might as well do what you got to do, you know your game. Oh, here we go, boys. There you go. Oh! Kingster!
He's going again.
Oh, yeah. Kingster! No, he was thinking, I got 2 hours sleep to come up shut out.
I told you, this fishing show is all about my guests.
What in the wide world of sports were we looking at?
Well, that was Full Contact Fishing. Chris King, who you guys all know, works for the NHL under Colin Campbell. But yeah, I mean, he was an avid fisherman. Now we're talking about fishing, and Lofty is living on the West Coast. The king of salmon fishing and all of that. This pales to comparison to what we do here in Ontario. But yeah, that was a show that Chris King, did. We did the Niagara River in, I think it was early December, and actually hit upon some steelheads. So that was a lot of fun. And like anything, I love fishing. I haven't done it a lot. I've been up to the Queen Charlotte's a couple of times for salmon fishing. That was exciting. But the thrill of landing a fish, regardless of how big it is, Piker, it just doesn't matter what the size.
You bet, Serge. We got a couple little nicknames for each other here, Glenn. I started calling him Sturge because it reminded me of fishing out here in the West Coast and fishing for sturgeon. I just thought he had the same characteristics of the sturgeon. And so now he calls me Piker because he thinks that's funny, but it's not as funny as Sturge.
No, Lofty, be honest. It has something to do if I was to turn my side and show you my nose. That was you being very nice, because we went to the Chicago Aquarium, and you pointed out the huge sturgeon in the Chicago Aquarium, and you go, look, it's like you. He's got a nose like you.
Yeah.
Well, isn't Piker an unflattering term in beer league hockey?
I don't know.
I've never heard of that term.
Never played beer league hockey.
Okay. All right, let's move on. In researching our show, Ozzy, I found that you had one underreported, underappreciated hockey skill, and that was you knew how to find a place to sit even when there didn't appear to be one, like on the net, which looks like a good place to do some thinking. And also on top of the boards, happy with the new place to sit, obviously. When did you discover you had this skill? And does it also work at bus terminals and airports?
Well, I think what resonates with me with those two particular photos is one thing: when you play in Toronto, you know that the media is always out, and it's a great photo op to make sure that you're in the paper the next day. So I know that one on the net, and I know Mark didn't get the chance to play in a place like Toronto here, but it's I can't tell you how I got on top of the net or what have possessed me, but man, you guys are coming with some vintage photos and clips that both Mark and I need to get a hold of, Lofty, so we can show our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I was hoping that Glenn had the clips from the Detroit days when he sent, I think it was him or Paul Pascal. Paul sent me a couple clips, and one was a goal you scored against Edmonton, and one I scored. And I just wanted to show the different styles of play, the skill level, and then the whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's me, the whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't have that photo, but we have plenty of other photos. Like after Mark's post-playing career, he rubbed Lofthouse. He rubbed shoulders with a lot of luminaries. Here he is on the ice with, among others, Mr. Hockey Gordie Howe. What was this occasion?
Well, it was a Legends night, and I don't know what I was doing on that, but because if you look at who's out there, you've got on your left, you got Claude Lemieux, you got Pat Quinn, you got Gordie Howe, you got Greg Adams, and you got I think it's Marty Howe, myself, and we're just Gordie's dropping the puck at center. Gordie was obviously struggling at that point too. I remember walking out on the carpet with him and just thinking he might fall, and it was just you could just see it was his health was waning, and it was such an honor. And that picture, to be on the ice with the legends that are out there was something else. Gordie Howe was just an amazing individual. As far as got to meet him 3-4 times, and he always had the time of day for you. Like he would never take his mind off of his conversation with you. He was very engaging and kind. And I got to play one game against him. I remember he was in Hartford and I was in Washington. It was an exhibition game, and I remember being out there a couple times, and all I could think about, I remember one time going in the corner, I just grabbed his arms and nailed his elbows to his side so that I wouldn't get, face planted with an elbow going into, he was 52 at the time, but still, his reputation preceded him. But anyway, that picture was from a Vancouver Giant game where we were being honored and dropping the puck.
How about this one?
Yeah, that was a Canuck alumni event. We're playing against the up in Smithers, and they had the Chiefs there. I think all three of them were there. We had a night where we played a game, and they put on an incredible show. And that's Steve Carlson. What a great guy he is. I played with Dave Hansen, and all three of those guys were great. They just put on a great show. And Steve, I know, is facing a lot of health issues right now, and I wish him the best and hope he's breaking through it all.
One more. He must have lent you his Charlestown Chiefs uniform. How come you're wearing that one here, and who is this picture with?
Well, everybody knows who one of those people are, and that's the great legendary Bobby Orr, and that's one of my favorite pictures ever of all time. That's the game that we were playing, and I remember coming off the ice. I made a play, and Bobby says he pulled me aside and told me what he thought of it. It was real good, and I was like, wow, that was such a thrill. And to be out there, he was coaching our team, and it was a great night. I got that. I still got that jersey. I got Bobby to autograph it with the three Hansen brothers. So my name's on the back, which is something that we could do without. But having their autographs and again, Bobby, just a legendary quality, fantastic individual.
And Ozzy, when you were with the Leafs, you had some great success with Eddie Olczyk and Gary Lehman on your line. Why do you think you clicked so well?
Yeah, I was the marble on that line. We were referred to as the gem line. Gary was at the time, that year that we did play together. We played a few years together, but one particular year where we had a lot of success, Gary scored 51 goals. Only Rick Vive had been the only Leaf to pass the 50 goal mark. And then Eddie Olczyk was just an excellent centerman. we had instant success. I think there was a combination of, me being the up and down winger. Eddie did a great job getting Gary the puck, and Lofty, if you've ever seen Gary or played with any alumni hockey with Gary, I mean, he was a talented player, a lot of skill. And we enjoyed each other's company off the ice. I mean, those guys loved the horses. They would drag me out to the racetrack when we were out on the road. You know what it's like when you get on a line, because oftentimes the coaches are always changing lines, like they're trying to find the right chemistry. And, here in Toronto now, you see the chemistry with, Matthews and Marner. We were by no means in that category by any stretch of the imagination, but I think you get the understanding that you get put on a line together, and when things click, it's just fun to be a part of. And yeah, I had my best statistical year, that season, scoring 73 points, and in today's standards, those 73 might have been like a 40-point season. So, it's like, wow, we're applauding guys that if they score 15 goals or 20 goals, right? And, look what Austin Matthews did last year with 60 goals. But, the game has totally changed. It's a different animal. And, line mates and teammates are always fond memories.
73 points, Ozzy. That's worth about $5 million a year right now.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Here's one more picture of you sitting.
Yeah.
And you brought some friends with you. This is in 1988 before the playoffs, when you're predicting a 4-game sweep over the Red Wings.
Oh, was that what it was? I thought it was just they asked us. I thought the camera guy said, "How many guys are on the ice right now?"
Now, what NHL distinction did that 1988 Leafs playoff team have?
Oh boy! So now you're really dating me, and you're trying to get me to remember all of these years later what happened in those playoffs. Is that what you're asking me?
What? No. Well, forgive me for asking, and forgive me for knowing this, but the Leafs had a regular season winning percentage of .325, which is still the lowest of any team that's ever made the NHL playoffs.
Oh, so that's what you wanted me to remember, being on that team that year.
Well, now we know why you don't remember it.
Yeah, I don't remember it. I do remember that there was a series in which we were up 3-1 on the Red Wings and lost the next 3 games. You might be referring to that.
No, that wasn't it. In fact, let's just move on to happier memories. You get traded to Winnipeg, you get traded back to Toronto, and things get better. So what had changed?
Well, things got better for the team. There was no question about that. I mean, we had success in Toronto in the late 80s, just getting into the playoffs with a .325 winning percentage. But no, like those early 90s, I mean, Harold had passed on. Ownership had changed. Cliff Fletcher became GM. He had won the cup with Calgary. He knew what it was like to put a winning team together. He made some astute trades where he brought in some of these veteran players like Glenn Anderson, Grant Fuhr. That trade for McCowan and Dougie Gilmore was really instrumental in the team, getting to respectability again. That first year in '93 when, we surprised the Red Wings, won in 7 games, went all the way to the Stanley Cup semifinals. It was the passion had returned. Now you guys all understand hockey here in Toronto, and it's been a tough go. Not getting out of the first round, I think, since 2004. So when you go back to those early 90s, they were fun teams. They were, teams that had chemistry. We had a coach by the name of Pat Burns that instilled a workman-like work ethic. We were kind of blue collar, and really, I think, took the city by surprise with that success that we had. Iconic Leafs like Wendell Clark, like Dougie Gilmore, some of those Hall of Famers like Glenn Anderson and Grant Fuhr, Dave Andrewchuk. So, the Leafs, all of a sudden became respectable, whereas, throughout, I'd say, a good portion of the 80s, people got disenfranchised with the team. And, there were times when it wasn't fun being a Maple Leaf.
Lofty, you had one more championship in you. It came in 1988 in Hershey. Let's take a look.
Now Lantier gets it ahead for Lowry. Lowry moving in. 10 seconds to go. Just a matter of counting it down now as the Hershey Bears are the 1988 Calder Cup champions.
A 4-game sweep, and you got to give John Paddock and his team a lot of credit. They're the best team in the American Hockey League. The Express is the second best team in the American Hockey League, and although you don't get remembered for being second best, I'll tell you, they lost to one great hockey team, a veteran hockey team, and they deserve to win. There's no two ways about it. When you sweep a final, you deserve to win.
In fact, Lofty, those Bears swept all 3 series. You went 12-0 in the preseason, which is unprecedented. What do you remember about that season?
Yeah, well, I remember we just had so much depth. I think it was on the third line of that team. I had a good playoffs, which was great, but we just had, we had a real strong, tough defense. Wendell Young was our goalie. He was incredible. I think he was the MVP of the playoffs. And then we just had 3 really good lines that you could just roll through, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, to win those 12 straight, and I don't know if it's been done in hockey. I don't think it's been done in hockey professional level, but I'm sure it has been in some sports. But it was to keep that consistency and go all the way. I always remember. I thought we were going to do it again the next year. We had a really good year, and we went 4-0 the first round. So now we won 16, and then we played Adirondack, which is Detroit's farm team, and won the first 3. So we won whatever that is, 19 games, and then we lost 4 straight. They knocked us out the next year. But I mean, like I said, I was saying earlier, the best memories of hockey, and I think Mark would probably, would echo this, in that, the individual awards are nice, and it's nice to be recognized, but you wouldn't do it without the guys that you had to play with, and also, but winning a championship with a bunch of guys, you never forget that. We've had a couple of reunions. You go back, and Hershey was, if not the best place I ever played, is one of the best places I played. Just the atmosphere, small town. They got a brand new arena there. I went back there, played in a couple charity games. It's just a great town, and just a history that's beyond. I think the arena, the old arena, is one of the oldest in North America. As a matter of fact.
Lofty, you put up staggering AHL goal totals: 48 one year with Hershey, 33 with Adirondack, 37 with New Haven, and you once said this of management: they play with your mind. They told me to play a stronger game in the corners, but I wasn't scoring, so down I went to the minors. So my question is, do players get these mixed messages and sometimes don't really ever get a chance to show what their real value is?
I think hockey's changed tremendously. I don't think it's like, I mean, looking at that era when I played and came in, I think it's so much different now. And they recognize, if you've got the ability, they're going to you got guys coming up from the minors. When I came up from the minors, like when I went up to Detroit and I was in Adirondack, you're put on the fourth line. You're not, and I was a goal scorer. So to have me play with the guys that are not the skill players wasn't, to me, it wasn't putting me in my best spot. But nowadays, if you're in the American League and what Marner goes down in Toronto, the Marlies, they're going to bring up a guy to try to either somebody's going to move up, but a lot of times they'll have the top guy will step right into that position. I mean, that's a lot of pressure for a young guy, but they want to see what he can do. Can he fill that void? Because everyone has a role now in hockey. You've got your skill guys, you've got your third line, hard, checking line, and then you've got your grinders on the fourth or whatever. But I just don't think that it was defined as well back in those days. And I would have liked, it would have been nice to have a better chance. I don't want to, I had a great career, I had a lot of fun. I wouldn't change it for nothing. But I think how they handled players years before was, when I got drafted, when I got traded to Detroit, I just won the American Hockey League scoring title, and then got traded there. So I thought, they're bringing me in to play there, and I went to camp. I had a really, really good camp, but I remember just at the end of camp, they traded for Reggie Leach, and Reggie Leach, was a great hockey player, but he was near the end of his career. And Danny Gare was there, so he was a good, solid right winger. And John Pronovo was, I think, he was 38 years old, and they're right wingers. And I was on a two-way contract, and so I was an easy choice at that time to not be there. But I worked my way back up and got to play with Ozzy again, and it was a lot of fun. Enjoyed that. But yeah, there's, I don't regret anything. I had a lot of fun, and but I really think that hockey has changed a lot.
Ozzy, you're a pro scout. Do you talk to prospects differently when you talk to them than maybe you were talked to?
Well, let me just preface this by saying I'm on the pro side of scouting. Our amateur department does all of that. So, when they're looking at potential guys getting ready for the draft, they do all of that. They, meet the players, they interview the players, they watch them on the ice, and they try to put all the things together to, make a decision on who they're going to draft. I've got the cushy job. Lofty will attest to this, that he knows I'm soft, have it easy. I go to NHL rinks. And my primary focus is there's, us LA King scouts, we do it a little bit differently. Most organizations, scouts watch both the American League and the NHL, so they have the entire system that they're watching. We do it a little different, where we have 4 American League scouts. There's 4 divisions in the American Hockey League, and then there's 4 divisions in the National Hockey League. So my job is to oversee the Atlantic Division, of which there's the Leafs, the Bruins, the Habs. And so I'm watching these players, I'm rating the players, I'm reporting on the players, and we are also comparing our current players on our team to the players in my division. So if there's a trade, if there's a free agent, that's my responsibility, is to evaluate these guys as NHL players already. So a little bit different. There's not that part. I'm not going to be going down and trying to meet Austin Matthews or Mitch Marner or maybe some of the other, players that, the Leafs are never going to get rid of those kind of players. But I think you catch my drift. It's not part of what I do as an NHL scout.
I've kept both of you longer than I promised I would, so thank you for that. And I want to close by getting both of your thoughts on this, almost to a man or woman. Retired athletes say that what they miss the most after playing is the camaraderie, being around the guys. So even for players that don't see each other a lot, like the two of you, what does it mean to maintain a relationship in your post-playing careers? And Ozzy, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, and we've touched on it already. I mean, playing a game we love, the team. Lofty's played on championship teams. The bond that's created. Players understand, and only players understand the pressures, the ups and the downs, the getting sent down to the minors, the injuries, wondering if you're going to get another contract. So the camaraderie is something that you really do miss, but we still get to do it. We're involved with our alumni organizations, or, Mark's involved with the Canuck guys and he would have played with some of them or against a number of them, and that's that instantaneous bond. But I'd probably say, and I'd probably say this for Mark as well, is I miss the pregame meals and the afternoon naps.
And the soap operas once in a while. I used to watch a little bit of soap. But yeah, no, it was really the lifestyle, and Mark and I are so blessed to play hockey and be part of it. And he's still heavily involved and invested in the game. And I would change anything really. But the camaraderie thing is one that is probably the biggest item there for us as players, is be able to see your old teammates and guys that you played with, or even being down in the restroom right now. When I go down there, I'm a bit of a trash talker, and I love, as you can see, I like talking a little bit and causing a little grief. And so I cause a lot of grief around the guys around me, just kind of keep them on their toes and make them think where's he coming from. But I just enjoy being with the guys, having a beer after, and being part of the Canuck alumni, and being for over 30 years now. Like I said, it's been like a church for me, going every Wednesday and just hanging out with the guys and sitting there and telling stories. When I first retired, it was a very big thing for me, and I think these guys coming out of hockey, I think it would be well advised to get involved with their alumni associations and be stay in the game. You can still stay in it. You're not making the big bucks like Ozzie did when he played, but it's a great part of the game.
Ozzie, I've seen your emails to Lofty. You give as good as you get, right?
Well, yeah, and that's that's part of the game as well. I think, and you talk to your other friends, that are in the corporate world or business, and the whole culture of hockey is about camaraderie. It's about practical jokes. It's about japping. It's the stuff that we enjoyed on commercial flights, the things that we would do. And then you get around corporate people, and they're very serious. And it's almost like, I know they do have fun, but they don't know how to have the fun that we did, right? Because it's just a unique camaraderie and an alumni. And we played the game that we loved, but we had fun. And remember, we didn't charter, we were on Scare Niagara. That was Air Niagara, Scare Niagara. You had the little meals post game. These guys now, I mean, they got chefs in their dressing room. You come on their chartered planes, there's shrimp cocktails, or you name it. Like, I mean, we had it tough. We knew what it was like.
Yeah, but you wouldn't trade it for nothing, right? No, those are great times.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
It has been a great time having both of you on. I really appreciate both of you making time to do this. And it's been wonderful to be able to sit in and watch you talk to each other, and also talk about NHL careers and careers in pro hockey. I can't thank both of you enough. Thank you so much, both of you, for your time.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. And it's nice to see you, Lofty. Great to see that you didn't blow me off this time.
Yeah, good seeing you, buddy.